Good morning, everybody. It's the weekend, and I am here to review some historical fiction books for you as part of my thematic TBR series that I do. I do this series in order to break down my TBR because I read about 20 to 30 books a month on an average because I'm constantly circulating books in and out of my apartment from the library. And then I'm also borrowing books from my mother and my mother-in-law and also my friend Kate. So this TBR will be for multiple months. I started it in March and it goes until the end of the summer because I will be reading historical fiction books throughout the summer. The first book I wanted to discuss today is City of Girls by Elizabeth Gilbert. This is by the same author as Eat, Pray, Love and The Signature of All Things. I love Elizabeth Gilbert's writing. Eat, Pray, Love is definitely one of my favorite books because there's a section about it where the main character goes to Italy. And in the movie, the main character in this book is played by Julia Roberts, who is one of my favorite actresses. This book is about a girl who gets kicked out of Vassar College and goes to New York City to live with her rich aunt. And she gets involved in theater, which, you know, as I've said before in my other videos, this channel is primarily a YouTube channel where I talk about theater and plays that I see, but since I'm not seeing as many plays as I used to in the past, basically the book review videos have replaced the theater review videos because I am reading more books at the moment than seeing plays. And the next plays Matt and I are going to see actually are Mary Poppins and White Christmas. So what I liked about this book was how Vivian connects with the actresses in the theater company and how she forms friendships with them and the development of that. And I also like her relationship with her aunt. I think that's very sweet. So this book is kind of similar to the Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo because you have the main character, Vivian, who is 89, recounting her life's history and what she experienced. And that's exactly what Evelyn Hugo does in The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. So if you are looking for a book to read that is similar to The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, please read this book, and also Did You Hear What Happened to Kitty Carr, which I read back in February. The next book that I wanted to talk about that I'm currently reading is Euphoria by Lilly King. Lilly King is one of my new favorite authors, and in a couple of weeks she's going to be interviewing Morgan Talty, who wrote Night of the Living Rez at Print Bookstore, and I'm going to get to meet both authors. So I'm very excited. So right now I am on page 126, chapter 12, and inspired by the events in the life of revolutionary anthropologist Margaret Mead, Euphoria is a captivating story of three gifted young anthropologists of the 1930s caught in a passionate love triangle that threatens their bonds, their careers, and ultimately their lives. So I love this book, and the part about the love triangle is just starting to make itself known, so I'm very interested to see how that will develop. And I just love Lilly King's writing. Another book that I have read of hers that I read last month that's not historical fiction, it's more like generalized contemporary fiction, is called Father of the Rain, which is about a girl who deals with a father who's an alcoholic and how she deals with growing up with an alcoholic parent. Something is misleading about that title, though, because the book is called Father of the Rain, but there's nothing really mentioned about the rain. People on Goodreads actually made that comment too, and they found that very confusing and misleading. The next book that I wanted to talk about is Major Pettigrew's Last Stand. So this book is not actually mine. One of my neighbors left a big stack of books in the table in the lobby down by the mailboxes. So this is one of the books that I picked up from that stack, and I picked up a few other historical fiction books, and also Nora Goes Off Script and The Four Aunties in a Wedding. So this book is, okay, I will just read the description. In the small village of Edcombe, St. Mary, in the English countryside, lives Mrs. Major Ernest Pettigrew, retired, and the unlikely hero of Helen Simonson's wondrous debut. Wry, courtly, opinionated, and completely endearing, the Major leads a quiet life, valuing the proper things that Englishmen have lived by for generations: honor, duty, decorum, and properly brewed cups of tea. But then his brother despairs an unexpected friendship with Mrs. Jasmina Ali, the Pakistani shopkeeper from the village. Drawn together by their shared love of literature and loss of their spouses, the Major and Mrs. Ali soon find their friendship blossoming into something more. But village society insists on embracing him as a quintessential local and regarding her as the permanent foreigner. Can their relationship survive the risks of where one takes without when pursuing happiness in the face of culture and tradition? So this book is really interesting so far. I am currently on 171, chapter 13. A book that I just finished is called Never Met a Duke Like You by Amalie Howard, the second book in the Taming of the Duke series. This book is a modern retelling of Emma by Jane Austen, which I read back in February. And I really love how this spins a Jane Austen novel into a modern story. This book is about a woman named Vesper who is courted by the Duke of Graydon to be married. And it's basically about debutantes in Victorian London. And the cool thing about this main character in this book, Vesper, is that she is neurodivergent. I have misspoken in the past about my disabilities when I did not mean to. I mentioned that I was autistic, but I have a similar disability that is on a neurodivergent spectrum. That is not, it's similar, the traits are similar to autism, but it's not really autism. So I just wanted to clarify that. And I really like how this author, created a neurodivergent character in her Regency romance novel. I think that's super cool. And I'm going to be starting to watch Bridgerton soon, so I'm really excited to be reading book series that are similar in tone to what the characters in Bridgerton experience. The next book that I'm going to be reading that is historical fiction is The Air You Breathe, which is another book that I borrowed from my mother. This is set during World War II in Brazil, and the main characters in it are Graça, who is the daughter in a rich house, and Doris, who is the kitchen help in the house, and this is the friendship that these two girls form from different class dynamics. So I haven't started this yet, but I can't wait to get started with it. So I am looking very forward to reading it. And the final book I wanted to talk about was a book I started last month and finished 2 weeks ago. Again, another Elizabeth Kostova book. This is by the same author as The Historian, which I read from February to March. And it's just as long, if not longer. And honestly, the length of this book is what was a huge turnoff for me. The writing was good. It was engaging up until chapter 70. And then I started to lose interest in reading it because it got kind of boring. The Historian, was a lot more engaging for me because I liked the setting of it, which was Romania, where Dracula is from, and I liked the setup and how the relationships developed. Like, this book was sort of boring because it focuses on interviewing an artist because they're trying to track down it's basically it's about a psychiatrist trying to get deeper into the mind of one of her patients, and it just got kind of dull and boring after a while, so I gave this 2.5 to 3 stars on Goodreads and a C+ letter grade. Another historical fiction that I borrowed from my mother-in-law last month, which I gave back to her already, is The Dutch House by Anne Patchett. Anne Patchett also wrote Commonwealth and Tom Lake, and this book is set during World War II and is basically about how a family house goes through the different generations of a family, and the setting of this book is really beautiful, and also it makes me think of my family's summer house in Hull, Massachusetts, that has been in the family since before I was born. So in this book, The Dutch House, a World War II general gifts a fancy Victorian-style house to his wife, and it's basically about how the house stays in the family throughout the generations, and it focuses on class disparity, economic issues, and just family dynamics throughout the generations of growing up in this house and having to upkeep such a fancy house. So I really enjoyed this book. I gave it a B+ and 4 stars on Goodreads. Much better ranked than Tom Lake, which I had trouble getting into. So that's it for my historical fiction focus for the next couple of months, and I will provide another update video probably in June once I start reading more books in this thematic TBR. Have a great weekend.